Welcome to Bench Talk Live, guys. Pumped to be here on YouTube. We've had a little pre-show on Instagram. Let me just adjust the camera here for a sec. There we go. Yeah, we just had a little pre-show over on Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, check out Big Benches. Hold on, guys. I'm having trouble with the camera here. All right. All right, home. Promises last adjustment here. I think I dropped this thing one too many times. You know what I'm saying? All right, guys. Welcome to Bench Talk Live. We got some great questions to get through today. Let's have a great Q&A. Drop some cues, guys. Sip of coffee to the working man. If you're joining us from Instagram, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming back over. We'll answer some questions. We'll talk some bench pressing. Who watched the Super Bowl? Great Super Bowl, I think, because I wanted the Bucks to win. So I loved seeing Brady catch his 7th ring there. That was awesome to watch. I've been watching that guy pretty much since I started watching football regularly when I was a little kid. So really awesome to see what he's done. Just unbelievable. I don't think it's going to be replicated in our lifetime. I just don't see it happening. Patrick Mahomes is a great QB, but to string together that many Super Bowls like that, oh boy, that's going to be hard to replicate. Plus, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to have that longevity. I don't see him playing past 40. I mean, he's already had some issues getting knocked around. He's a running QB. He makes some crazy throws. I don't think he's going to be able to do that forever. Corbin, hello. I'm curious what muscles you should get sore next day after bench pressing powerlifting technique. So, the main areas you're probably going to feel most sore, or that I like to see people feel sore. And again, soreness is an indication that, that muscle group got good work in. And where I'd like to see soreness, obviously triceps are going to be a main one. Triceps are really big. Chest, depending on the lifter, what their deficiencies are, what we did for the day, pausing. But the one place that I really like to hear where a lifter was sore is in their glutes, and then especially in their upper back and lats. So if you have back soreness the next day from bench pressing, if you feel sore in your legs or glutes, primarily, or hips, that's a great indication that you are on the right track. Okay, so obviously you got the pressing muscles, triceps, chest, shoulders, all of that. That's not going to be hard to hit well to the point where you get some soreness the next day. But what is impressive is when you really properly activate your back, you use your back to a high degree, and you use your leg drive well, your hips. That's impressive. That is the soreness that I like to hear from people the next day. If I get a message saying, man, my hips are sore, man, my upper back's killing me, that's what I like to hear, because that tells me the things that are hard typically for most lifters to get down: proper leg drive activation of lower body, and then also back activation. Those things are touched on. So that's a great question. And yeah, that's we haven't had that question yet, so that's an awesome one. Add eel. Sip of coffee for all the peanut butter jelly sandwiches in the world. Sip of coffee, my friend. Today I got my Florida mug, trying to channel those Florida vibes. It is snow piled out here. We've been getting hammered with snow. I don't see it ending anytime soon. Right now, projection is snow like every day for the next 2 weeks. We're buried in it. I'm all out of coffee, guys. Theo Drake, hey, Big Benches. What's your opinion on building the strict press to help the bench? So by strict press, do you mean overhead, or do you mean doing like feet up benching? Because I would consider that a strict upper body press, because you're not utilizing leg drive in a full setup. I expect that you mean overhead. Yeah, so overhead, I do think it has a lot of value. Again, the magic number there, based on Charles Poliquin's article, you can find in T Nation back in the late 90s, was 60%. Overhead press, the strict press should be about 60% your 1 rep max raw. All right. If you're not at that level, I think you can stand to really benefit a lot from building the overhead up. If you are at 60%, doesn't mean that building your overhead up will not help you. It's just going to have diminishing returns. Okay, so really that 60% is a magic number there. I do find it to be very valuable for raw lifters. It's been very valuable for my raw lifting. If I was certainly pushing a raw lifting cycle, then I would be doing overhead press. You bet that much. Isaiah Robinson is going from a 250 to a 315 bench in 6 weeks, realistic running a strength program. That's going to be very tough, my friend. That's a big, big gain, and you're looking at a big milestone of 3 plates. I wouldn't say it's impossible. It really just depends on the work ethic you're going to put forth, how much body weight that you're planning on gaining during that time. You can certainly make it happen, but to make it happen in that short a period of time, you're probably going to have to gain some significant weight for sure. You'd have to be like pretty fresh beginner in order to make that kind of compounding gains. Um, I'd say unlikely, but I wouldn't say impossible. I'll never say impossible, um, but I really wouldn't put a timetable on it. Just continue to put forth the work that you can put in. Even in mind training right now, is it possible to go from wherever I was to doing this 810 and breaking this all-time world record? Hopefully, but I'm not going to put a timetable on it. I expect the bench for many more years. So if I don't get it here, we'll come back and we'll get it some point across the line here. But yeah, I wouldn't put a timetable on your lifting, especially if you got many years left. If you're not planning on hanging it up anytime soon, really just enjoy the ride. Continue to do what you can to get stronger, and enjoy the process. But yeah, definitely wouldn't say it's impossible. I would just say probably extremely difficult in that scenario. All right. Everyone joining us in from Instagram, I really appreciate you coming over. That was our little pre-show. I'll probably continue doing that, shooting the shit, answer questions for about 20 minutes over on Instagram before this. Wanted to jump on Instagram Live, been a while. You drop our questions here, YouTube, Bench Talk Live. I appreciate everyone joining in. Try to do these every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So make note, throw on notifications. That's one thing. If you guys really enjoy our videos, you can put notifications on for YouTube and Instagram, post notifications, so that when we do get a new video uploaded, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you'll hear about it. You won't miss anything. So I highly encourage that you do that. Take some more cues here. If you have restricted mode on, and I don't know what's up with that, Matt. I look at all my settings and everything is public and for everyone. So I'll have to look into that more. I'm not quite sure why it would be in restricted mode. Or, if our YouTube's in restricted mode. Everything I have is put on public and for everyone. So I'll check that out. Corbin, do you train legs as well, even if you bench press specialist? If yes, do you have some special approach to it, or is it just the basics? Yeah, so I still train squat. I don't do as much deadlift training at the moment personally, but that's all stuff that I pushed highly in the past. My last full power meet, I had 800-pound squat, 765 bench or 780 bench, and ended up with a 545 deadlift, which was kind of the shitty part of the day because I felt good to go over 600 at that time. But that was my last full power meet for 2120 total. Right now, because I'm chasing these bench numbers and I'm really more focused on that, I'm mostly taking, I guess, a basic approach. I wouldn't really call it that though. I mean, we're running a more of a conjugate style based training program. Um, Most of our athletes. What I'm doing is more a little bit more of a linear approach, block training. Um, I'm pretty much running off kind of what I'm programming for some of the athletes that I train with, and just kind of running along with that because I don't really have any goals for squat and deadlift at the moment. So I absolutely do want to continue to be proficient at that. Not even more so for the strength gain, but more so because as a coach, I find it to be a very extremely valuable aspect because you have to go through these movements to really keep that intuitive awareness with cueing how things feel. You know, you can't really expect to coach it if you're not going through it too. So that's mostly what's going on. Matt, I think it's my browser. I think the IT guys at work are getting jealous of my bench. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check my settings here. If you're saying YouTube, not getting notified, I'll have to look into that because I know that's a couple weeks now. We had that issue, so I'll check into that. Let me know, guys, if it's hard for you guys to join in. If you're not getting a little pop up saying we're going live or whatever, I want to make sure that each time we're doing this, that you get notified. Any advice for feeling a lot of pressure on the lower back when heavy benching? So if you're in a good arch position, um, first I would try to think about activating that upper back as you're going through your setup. That would be one. I would try to get the most of your arch from that upper back T spine extension, or instead of jamming up your lower back. Okay, it really comes from the upper back being able to get that extension and get into a good position. All right, that's first and foremost. The lower back, you can protect that more by squeezing your glutes when you're setting up. So if you're bridging up off the bench or the floor to prop up on your traps or whatever, um, make sure you're squeezing your ass. A lot of people just forget about squeezing their ass. They bridge up, they're not squeezing their ass, they're jamming up their lower back. Even when they bring their feet down, they're doing leg drive. You're not. You can be driving knees out, but not be squeezing your ass. All right. So that's a real important thing. Is that squeezing your glutes, squeezing your ass. Okay, because that's gonna help protect your lower back and take some pressure off of that. Um, but other than that, I mean, just the nature of it too, especially if you, are fairly immobile or, I have some low back pain myself. It's just kind of part of the game. Sometimes it's just, I know the next day after benching, it's going to be a really tough, brutal day. Um, while I'm benching, it's going to be pretty tough, but those days in between, usually if you're doing the right stuff, you can help with that. Like I just went through a Ramwad session. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Ramwad, but one of the poses I really like is a frog stretch. If you're familiar with a frog stretch, you're pretty much on all fours. You have your knees separated out, and you just kind of open up the groin. And I really focus on breathing, but core activation. And I can get my body shaking in that position because kind of relax the lower half, and then I'm just really maintaining stability through my midsection. And boy, is that tough! But afterwards, because that's something that I don't normally activate as well, man, it really feels great for the lower back. Also, I'm sitting on a yoga ball right now. So you see why I'm probably all springy. I got my chair over there. I switched out my chair, which is just an athlete killer if you're always sitting, to a yoga ball. Because it makes a bit of a difference. You're able to get more core activation here, more movement. Um, it's not the same as chilling out into a really bad position on the chair. So, not to get away from the question too much, but yeah, the main thing, upper back extension and then utilizing your hips. I would like to know, what is your favorite bench press record holders who do you use to watch, or who motivates you to do powerlifting meets? So I think doing powerlifting meets has to be very self motivated. I don't think just following someone should be your source of motivation for competing. But the people that I like to look up to, that I take a lot away from, I was talking on Instagram about Scott Mendelson. Obviously, Jimmy Cobb is a huge one for me, especially currently. I'm able to talk with Jimmy quite a bit at a few different meets. And I'm looking forward to hopefully getting down to the gym he trains at in April to get some training with him. But yeah, he is great to talk to, has a bunch of great advice as well. Um, any of those guys, pretty much everyone that's going to be at Tiny Winker's meet in March, which will be the meet I compete in too, is someone that I look up to. Equip benchers, that's what I compete in. You got Ryan Kennelly going down there. Even Rich Putnam, I've trained with him multiple times, and he's always um, awesome to watch train. Just talk about bear paws. Some of these guys just freaking monster hands, brick houses. So yeah, just real impressive to see all those guys bench press. Rich Putnam was someone that my very very first single ply meet, well, just a quick benching meet in general. I happened to wear a single ply shirt that blew up on me at the meet. He was there with his crew, and boy was that fun to watch. I think he was going for 1,000 pound bench that day. I felt so out of place. Here I am doing like a shitty a little over 400 bench. Um, but just to watch him throughout the years, he was someone that, really, probably first live bench I saw with that much weight ever competing. So really, really cool to see any of those guys bench. What if I told you my triceps will not grow? Well, it's a good thing that you're not always looking to, as a power lifter, grow the muscles. Obviously, that's huge. But powerlifting is one of those sports where you could be a tiny little guy and not look big at all, and still put up some amazing weight, because a lot of it goes into how your nervous system is activating the muscle that you do have, especially if you're a weight class athlete. I mean, you can only gain so much muscle until you're pushing yourself out of your weight class. If you're trying to maintain a certain weight, you have to really delve into more the principles of getting stronger through neural activation and whatnot, power development, rather than just looking to gain muscle. So take it from someone who doesn't grow for shit either, my friend. I don't have the genetics for that at all. I was actually interested in bodybuilding early on, and I grow for shit. And I don't have the nice muscle belly attachments and whatnot. My bicep ends earlier. You got that dead space between the elbow. Um, but hey, I was able to get stronger. I had to really put in the work to do that. But powerlifting is great because you don't necessarily have to be the biggest guy to be the strongest guy. I'm all out of coffee. Otherwise, I'd sip a coffee to the work I'm in, but we're fresh out. I gotta brew me up some more coffee. Take some more cues, topics, anything you guys want to talk about. I'll try to figure out this whole restricted issue with YouTube if you guys aren't getting notified at all. We got a shit ton of snow, I'll tell you that much. I'm looking out the window now. I don't know when it's gonna melt. It's supposed to snow for like the next 2 weeks, so that's winter for you. Alright, guys, we'll take some more cues. How often should a raw lifter work up to heavy doubles or singles? So I guess it really depends on the type of programming that you are working through. If I'm taking more of a linear approach with an athlete, usually I want to say mostly at the peaking phase is when we're going to be going into doubles, triples, doubles, singles. However, I've seen enormous benefit since doing more conjugate style programming for athletes with handling heavier weights more often if they're able to recover from it. Some of our athletes didn't take so great to that. They started, coming up with, I wouldn't say full blown injuries, but just different discomforts and things that started to bother them a little bit if working too heavy too often. Because some people's recovery capabilities, their work really not allowing them to sleep as much. So a lot of factors go into that. But I've seen enormous benefits from, even if you do take more of a linear approach, at least having some type of session where you overload and maybe hit some of those rep ranges, just the doubles or the singles. So I'd say probably once every 6 weeks would be a good rule of thumb. I'd say you'd want to at least handle some heavy weight like that, because there is going to be a big difference when you're repping out versus handling those heavy singles. There is a practice associated with that. Whether you save all that practice towards the end when you're getting ready for a meet, or you sprinkle it somewhere in there along the lines, if you're kind of linearly progressing. So I like the conjugate system that we're using with our athlete. I think we've seen some tremendous results with the bench press, especially, because that is a movement that's a lot easier to recover from naturally. So that's something that we've been seeing great results handling those heavy weights on a more frequent basis. But even with that, I do have a lot more reps early in the programming. Whether we're doing fives or triples, but usually ending the blocks with a max effort single. And that I'm always careful putting in rep max, because I don't always want the athlete to attempt an all-time PR. But depending on where we're at, if it's early in the training cycle, just work up to a heavy single. It doesn't have to be an all-time PR, but as we progress, we want to really see those performance numbers improve. Have you tried JM press with the slingshot? No, I have not tried JM press with the slingshot. I'm not sure how much that would help, just because you could load a slingshot if you're coming straight down with the weight, but if you're coming back, your arm shouldn't really be changing too much. So I don't think you would really get a benefit out of that. Slingshot's a great tool, though. We just posted a video on working around injury, and I am competing raw, so I'm competing in a shirt. So most of my support was coming via like a Titan Ram or a bench shirt. But when I had my shoulder issue going on majority of last year, that was a godsend to have those things. I could continue doing my main training, but if I was a raw lifter in that scenario, or any raw benching was affecting my shoulder, the slingshot would have been a fantastic tool in order to continue to do some full range benching without irritating the shoulder. Okay, so slingshot's great for that, for working around injury, overloading for a raw lifter, especially. I think the blue slingshot, the reactive, is really all you need. You see some raw benchers barely doing 300 with the black Mad Dog slingshot just because they can do more weight. But if you're a 300-pound bencher and then you're handling something like 450, I mean, it's so far off the map that it's not going to yield as great a training effect, in my opinion, because you still have to be very strong down at chest level. And if you're taking all that tension off you at the bottom or at the slingshot, then that's where I don't think you're going to get great carryover. You'll probably actually detrain yourself. So the key with the slingshot is just using enough. The reactive slingshot is plenty. Just using enough in order to train over your max, and allow your nervous system to adapt. Something that's going to be possible in the future, but not like freaking crazy. So, guys, slingshot's a great tool. That's a great it's a great little topic we can touch on in a podcast too. So I'll write that down. So we pop that down. Slingshot podcast and all that. That'll be a good one. If you guys aren't familiar with our podcast, check out the Benchcast on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to the podcast, you'll be able to find it. I use a little Google podcast app lately, but you can search the Benchcast. It's all there, and we have some great episodes coming up. So make sure you're checking out the podcast as well. Oh, we'll take a few more questions here. How's everyone doing with their bench training? What's up, my friend? Thanks for joining in. Taking a few more questions here. Shooting the shit, whatever topics you guys want to talk about. Be here for a little bit more. Man, how important is working the anterior delts? I think a lot more important for a raw bencher. Really depends on your bench style, though, especially if you're going like a wider grip. Um, where your deficiencies are is really gonna be like where the importance is for the front delts. But I will tell you, the way I train the front delts, so like see someone train, is through pressing. All right, handling a more weight via pressing and not just doing like front raises. I don't think there's going to be a huge carryover to doing a bunch of front raises. I think front raises or just any kind of raise in general will be a little bit more conducive for um, doing like a lateral raise, side delts, and then doing all your rear delt work. I even like to see bigger movements such as like a face pull where you can load up the weight a bit more. Um, but I'm really gonna put in some real isolative like front raises or anything like that. I like to train the shoulder how it's relative to the bench press, which is through pressing. So definitely gonna want to see some pressing in there. And if you do the raises and stuff, I like to see like static holds for some time, maybe a slow eccentric, something like that. A lot of time under tension. Jared, coach, I've been training for a year and a half and I can't bench 225 for 5 reps, but I bench 3 times a week. What should I do? Well, just understand that more benching is not always the answer. It's just doing the right benching with the time you have. So I don't see why you couldn't make progress benching once a week. And maybe, depending how your structure is, maybe you're just benching a little bit too much. You're never allowing yourself to really get that full recovery. You're never allowing yourself to really adapt to the changes that you're putting on yourself. So maybe I would take a week off or do some really light work, high volume stuff, just get a pump. And then maybe just try benching twice a week, but really trying to work up to a high intensity, doing something that you haven't done yet, and really instituting some new movements as well. Things that are going to challenge you. If you don't do a lot of paused benching, do some paused benching, really long paused benching, 3-5 count benching on the holding that chest level. If you have trouble mid range, really target your triceps through some board pressing. So it's really about targeting those specific weaknesses. If something hasn't really been working for you, switch it up. Do you know any history of the Larkin press? I believe you mean Larson, my friend. Um, Unless the Larkin press is something that I'm not familiar with. The Larson press, I'm not sure exactly who that is named after. Um, I'm not the biggest powerlifting history buff, but the Larson press is a fantastic movement that really targets the upper body. You take away the leg drive purposefully. And what I think the Larson press is really fantastic for is having a lifter learn how to connect with creating stability through their back, because that's really you don't have that tripod stance anymore. You don't have that stability base. Therefore, you need to properly learn to load through your lats, create stability through your upper body like that to press from. And that's really where I think the huge benefit there is with the Larson press. But I don't really know the background on it. Brady is the GOAT. Do you think he could go to the Lions and win a Super Bowl? And now we're getting a little ridiculous, my friend. But I guarantee if he went to the Lions, everyone else will follow him there. Calvin Johnson might come out of retirement. So that's what happens. That's really the key. The key is in the people that follow him there and buy into what he's doing. It's not necessarily just Brady. I think you put him on a real shitty team. We saw what happened last year when they went to shit on the Pats. He was throwing pick sixes in the playoffs. It's really people around him. And at the end of the year, we had shit for wide receivers. So, you really have to have the people around you. but everyone buys in with that guy. Sammy Chu. Hey, Benny, went to the orthopedist yesterday. He said I was experiencing forearm pain when I supinate because my pecs are too strong in relation to my shoulders. Ever heard of such a thing? Yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible. Um, I think having issues supinating your arm is, you're probably going to find 9.5 times out of 10 with someone who, like a powerlifter in general, someone who bench presses big weight. You have probably a really hard time getting your arm turned around. Um, that ends up getting very locked up in general because everything we do powerlifting, we're not really doing any exercises where we're like this. So that's typically the case there. But having the balance is definitely the huge element to making sure that injuries don't unfold from that, because you never want any one thing to be overdeveloped. That's like if you're just so anteriorly developed, you don't ever develop your upper back strength or your back. You never train back, but all you do is press. You're gonna end up with some injuries because you're just not balanced out good enough. Matt says that ortho has no idea what he's talking about. So Matt would be the guy to ask there, Sammy. He's a PT. He's a great PT out in Texas. So he would be able to give you some really good background on that. You guys should connect there. Isaiah Robinson, how often do you recommend maxing out? So we kind of just touched on that a little bit. I wouldn't. Again, I'm careful with using the words maxed out because you're not always looking to hit an all-time PR. But I'd say every 6 weeks or so is a good rule of thumb. I think someone could benefit from going heavy, doing a heavy single. We'll leave it at that. I wouldn't say an all-time PR, but a heavy single because you have to train. Um, you have to train that what you're going out to compete in. ABM Bowl. Larkin is a band on the wrist which pulls your elbows in, forces you to bend the bar and activate your lats. All right, so I didn't know that had a term associated with it, but that is a great drill to do. Using a band around the wrist. I don't like a band uh, attached to your elbow too much. You've seen. I did do a video on this once where you have a band attached around your elbow and it's pulling you back. I don't like that so much because then it's just teaching someone to tuck with their elbow and not as much their back. It's great if you could connect with your back, but more times than not, someone, if you put an elbow on or a band on their elbow and have them to tuck more, it's just going to be solely done at the elbow. It's like driving knees out in the squat without utilizing your hips to do so. It's really opening the groin, the open your taint thing that Cohen talks about, right? That's what's driving your knees out. You could easily drive your knees out too far. It's like how a lifter can easily over tuck their elbow. But I do think the band around the wrist is a great one. And when you have the band around the wrist there, because then it, again, associates with spreading on the bar and bending into the bar and stuff like that, which you're mentioning. So I do like that. I didn't know that was called a Larkin press, though. So that's cool. Thanks for sharing that, bud. Sammy said, no such thing as pecs that are too strong. That's right. ABM Bowl. Thank you, Benny. You know what, bud? I appreciate you. Take a few more. Take a few more questions coming in here. Or when we'll end on a few more questions. How's everyone's training going? Any meets upcoming? Meets are pretty much kind of back in full swing from what I see. Everything looks ready to roll. So hopefully we're getting over the whole curse of 2020 here and can get back to rolling. Actually set up at a meet. We set up a booth a couple weekends ago, which was awesome. I think it was at like 2 meets total last year, when all this happened. So, man, it feels good to get back out there on the fields. Road to 600 is next, starting tonight. That's a big one, my friend. That would be a huge press. Starting to get into some real elite territory. Kick ass, bring that intensity. That's what it's all about. The intensity with what you're doing there. Matt, can't wait for March. The Tiny Meeker's baddest bencher on the planet meet. That's gonna be a good one. When I first heard that going down, I was actually a month or a little over a month out from the meet we were prepping for, and I was like, shit, I gotta sign up for this immediately. I asked Tiny about it. I asked him the day he posted that, and then I guarantee I was probably the first person to sign up because I think he posted it later that night. I saw it, boom, right there, signed up. Um, because I was no way I could miss that. And then I found I was an open IPA meet. I was like, sign me up. We get the opportunity to go and share platform, some of the best bench pressers out there. It's really going to be a hell of a meet, and I'm really happy to see a lot of our team is going to be meeting up at this meet as well, which I'm really pumped about. You know, having an opportunity again to train or to compete with the team and see everyone kill it that day is going to be great. So, man, I'm just so pumped for that. And just to be able to get out and travel again, going to Texas, a place I love, Texas, just can't wait. Can't wait. Geopower 50. Hey, coach, I noticed barbell row and penalties, I focus on them more and has better improved my bench. When you mention open your knees for setup, meaning spread the groin, straighten your quad out more. So I think I was referencing just squats for a second. What I was mentioning just a minute ago. But yeah, when I'm saying drive knees out for bench press, uh, I don't really think of it as much as spread the groin for that because in that scenario, it's not like a squat where you have that axial force coming down through the ankle, foot pressure through the floor, and then you're just trying to maintain that alignment. It's a little bit different with the bench because the force is going outwards, which your feet shouldn't be going down. So I don't really think of it as open the groin. You can do that, but I just think drive knees out, but more so just trying to focus in on feeling the outside of the hips work. Like if you were spreading a band with your knees, how that would feel on your hips. You should have that sensation. And I do like to coach a little bit wider of a foot placement. It doesn't necessarily have to be a wider foot placement. A lot of lifters do find good value in having a close foot placement and thinking of it as a leg extension. I just like to tune in with the hips more. The hips are your biggest muscle group, and I think tremendous for creating that stability and the force needed to press big weight. So I wouldn't go and put my feet close together and think leg extension to handle some of the big weights that I'm handling. I want to open up that base. I want to think from the hips and then drive back, and that's going to give me a lot of stability. What's your equipped bench press max? Currently 820 in competition. That was done in the Inzer SDP end of 2019. That was September 2019. And yeah, that was a great meet. And right now I'm training to do 810 single ply at this March meet. And that will be world record. I cut down to 220. World record currently for that division 220 single ply is from Greg Powell, his 804.5 bench press. So hopefully looking to take a shot at that, take my crack at breaking that record. And then I'm hoping to try to push the record multiply after that. So hopefully big year, fingers crossed. Really key staying healthy, right? Sammy Chu, what did you cook for the Super Bowl? Got any leftovers? When are we doing barbecue talk live? I had Super Bowl. We did pulled pork. I had a pork butt on there. That thing went from 20 plus hours, and then I did some chili, which is really awesome. I did because I added sweet sausage to it too. I did a little bit different. Mushrooms were in it this time. I added flour to thicken it up a little bit, and sausage in there. Sausage came out really good with it. So I'll probably keep doing it with that. You get a couple meats in there, a little extra protein ain't hurting no one. And then we did 3 racks of ribs, like a couple dry rub, and did one with some Carolina mustard sauce. So that was a good. We had a lot of food for the Super Bowl. Appreciate that. ABM Bowl. Let's go, Benny. You got that. I believe in you. Much appreciated. The hips, nice. Get it now. Thank you, Coach. You got Geo Power 50. All right, guys. We'll take a few more. I'm going to head out here. We got some uploads to the Better Benching Academy today. If you guys want to improve your bench press in a big way, we have more videos, tips, drills, exercises, bench clinic footage. We have all our programs are accessible in the Better Benching Academy. So a lot of great content coming up there. If you want to follow my training, I do a full weekly recap. You'll learn some more information there. So check that out, BB Academy, BigBenchers.com. I'd love to have you inside there. That also includes access to our Facebook community group. You have to be either on our online coaching service or in the BB Academy to get access to that. Each month we do new challenges and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to join in and improve your bench in a big way, BB Academy, BigBenchers.com. Isaiah Robinson, besides all your years of training, what has helped your bench press the most? That's a tough one, my friend, because it really has been different things at different times. The biggest pop that I had in my bench probably was in 2019 when I went from 705 at the beginning of the year to 820 at the end. I had a 90-pound increase in 5 months. A lot of that was due to some technical changes I made with keeping better positioning on the unrack, but a lot of it had to do too with just how hard I was starting to hit the upper back. I really directed a lot of accessories to hitting the upper back, doing a lot of rows, my elbows higher up, and doing static holds, and that really made a huge difference for me. But that was because it was a weak link. So it really depends on what you need at the moment to jump ahead. I relate it to, the image of that coal miner, and he's knocking at the wall over and over and over and looking for gold. The gold's on the other side of the wall, and he's about this far away from it. All right, but he's tired out. He didn't want to take that next swing. All right, that's what is happening there when you're searching to progress your bench press sometimes. Is that you're trying everything, you're smacking down this wall, you keep on mining, you're looking for the gold, which is a huge 100-pound payoff or whatever. Okay, but it maybe just takes that next swing. You never know how close you are to doing that. It just takes that next accessory. It takes that next kind of progression or programming or whatever. It just takes that next thing to get you to that huge payoff, and that's going to be a little bit different for everyone. Okay, but because you haven't found it yet doesn't mean you should give up. It really just takes, clicking on one thing, doing something different. That's why I always say do something different that you haven't been doing, because you never know. There's been a time I was stuck at the same bench press for over a year, and what helped me at that time was a lot more. It was more frequency and was feet up benching, and that helped me tremendously break through that. So it's always different. You just got to find that next thing. Does multiply shirt assist you hold the bar at the top? Yes, it does. Or it should. If you have a good tight shirt, it should absolutely. Richie Tomlinson, if you could only do 3 bench variations, what would they be? Oh, if I could only do 3 bench variations, what would they be? Well, again, that would be more targeted to what I need to improve. So everyone's probably have a different response, but so just competition bench press would be one. You have to practice how you're gonna play. I like to do. I'd have a one board press in there too, because for my training, that's my bread and butter board. It allows me to load into the shirt enough, but also cut range of motion enough that I can press my biggest weight off of one board. even more so than like a 1.5 or a 2 board, because I don't get as much loading into the shirt. So 1 board is my bread and butter for overload in the shirt. So I would do those 2, and then probably floor press. I've been doing a lot of floor press. It's very versatile. You don't even need a bench, so I would do a lot of floor pressing variations with that: wide grip, close grip, chains, that stuff. What's a good Valentine's Day gift to get a bench presser? Depends on how much you want to spend. I would say wrist straps from bigbenches.com, self plug there, would be a good one. And or get that lovely bench presser in your life, a bench press bar. I think they would love that too. If anyone wants to send me a Texas Power Bar, I wish I had mine back. Because if you got hundreds, I love the Texas Power Bar because it's a thinner diameter. I got small little hands, so using the bigger bench bar really makes it tough for me. All right, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Maybe take one more question, but I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks if you came over from Instagram, our little pre-show there. I'll keep going live on there. I'll probably try to go live more than once a week on Instagram, shoot the shit with you guys, answer some Qs and whatnot. But I really appreciate everyone uh, joining in here. Matt says Texas Power Bar is a 20-minute drive from him. That perfect. No paying for shipping. Head right over there, grab a bar. I'm sure they have some inventory now. I haven't really looked to buy much gym equipment lately, so I'm not sure how it is out there trying to get bars and all that stuff. I'm hoping it's better. Um, I know it was crazy, man. It was sold out of everything, and I think it's still the case. I wanted to grab a Westside Power Bar. I still don't know if they're in stock because it's like out the second that they put it back in stock. So, oh man, awesome! Connected with Sammy there. That hopefully helps him out a ton. Appreciate that, bud. Um, so yeah, guys, that's it for Bench Talk Live. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoy our videos, enjoy our content, check out the Better Benching Academy. All right, we have a lot of great stuff in there. More videos, more tips, drills that are going to help you out. I recap my training. You have program access, whether you're a shoulder bencher or a raw bencher. We have a program for you. I'm going to be coming out hopefully this week with the 8-week conjugate bench program that will be available to those members in the Better Benching Academy as well. So check that out. BB Academy on bigbenches.com. Once you sign up, you'll be given access to everything that is in there, okay? And you'll be able to sign in through our website. So, hope to see you there, the BB Academy. I'll see you guys next time.